We got a major update around the Minnesota Vikings possibly drafting a quarterback in 2024 as a report came out that states the Minnesota Vikings are preparing to not draft a quarterback in this year's draft class and could be looking at the 2025 class to get it done. Let's kick it to Kevin Seifert, who broke down this report yesterday, and he said this. He says they're preparing for the possibility of riding with offseason free agent addition Sam Darnold in 2024 and then regrouping with either a quarterback drafted with a lower pick or perhaps a look ahead to the 2025 class. And this is my initial reaction to this. This is a smokescreen, or at least I hope. I am still in the camp that the Vikings have to do whatever it takes to go get their quarterback, go get their guy in this year's draft class. You traded for that pick from the Houston Texans for a reason, to go get your guy, whether it's Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, whoever it may be. And maybe the Vikings just wanted to kind of downplay the reports and downplay the rumors of them trading up in this year's draft. So I'm hoping this is a smokescreen, but you truly never know with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. But I want to send him a message to start off today's show. If you want the Vikings to draft a quarterback, not next season, but this season, it's simple. Drop a like on today's video. I put the goal as 500 likes on today's show. If you guys want to make me look good for my bosses and show support to the Vikings front office and send them a message that Vikings fans want to draft a quarterback this year and not next, give me a like on today's show. So this is my take when I heard that report from Kevin Seifert. It is the worst, best-kept secret in the NFL that the Vikings are looking to trade up for a quarterback in this year's draft. Everybody in the NFL knows. GMs, front office members from around the league, they know that Kwesi is trying to move up in this year's draft. So maybe Kwesi hit up Kevin Seifert, who is the beat reporter for the Minnesota Vikings that works for ESPN, and said, hey, we need to slow the roll on some of the buzz around the Vikings trade up in this year's class. So I think it's a smokescreen. But what if this is true? Let's break down on today's show that let's take this report for what it is, that the Vikings are preparing to draft a quarterback either in the later rounds this year or in next year's draft class, and that they may use these 2 first-round picks that they have to go add some key additions to the offense and defensive side of the football. Obviously, we do know the Vikings do hold the 11th and 23rd pick in this year's draft. They got this pick from the Houston Texans, which, hey, we thought this was going to be used to go and trade up for a quarterback. Let's just say they stay put. Who would they end up drafting? So my number one choice at pick 11 for the Minnesota Vikings would be this man out of Toledo, the cornerback, in my opinion, the number one quarterback in this year's draft class, Quinn Ewers, and he is an absolute dog, ladies and gentlemen. He's super long, super athletic, kind of gives me shades of a prime Xavier Rhodes when he was playing here in Minnesota. And let's look at what he did last year, because he was just fantastic, like just straight up fantastic for Toledo this past season. He was only thrown at 62 times, and out of those 62 times, only gave up 27 completions, 290 yards given up, no touchdowns given up, and the insane stat right here, he had 18 pass breakups and 1 interception with only being thrown at 62 times. I think that just speaks to because high level play that he has, and only giving up a quarterback rating of 51.1. But taking a look at the Vikings cornerback room, because there is still a dire need for a true cornerback 1. Again, I like Byron Murphy as a cornerback 2, not so much as a cornerback 1. I love the addition of Shaq Griffin. Did have a down year for the Jags and the Panthers last season, but he could be a great rotational guy. I like Caleb Evans. I like Mekhi Blackman, but are they truly, rotational players in the NFL? Jury is still out on that. But if you guys would bring in a guy like Quinn Ewers, I think it would be a great addition. I think he's got true cornerback 1 potential in this league. So if the Vikings, if they do stand put or stay pat at pick 11 and 23, he would be my number 1 option. But now, at pick 23, I got the Vikings adding some kind of oomph to their football team, and they're getting Jerzon Newton, the defensive tackle from the Fighting Illini, and this dude is just a big old man that mans the middle of that defensive line. I mean, look at this picture on screen right now. This is a big fella, and also I love defensive linemen in college when they did wear single-digit numbers, wearing number 4 and having the belly out. There's just some sort of swagger that I like about that. But he had a great year, man. And he's also great at getting pressure from the interior. 7.5 sacks from the defensive tackle spot with 43 pressures. And we know the Big Ten, they produce offensive linemen at the highest level every single year. So he was getting it done at that regard. And, in 12 games, 8.5 TFLs, 7.5 sacks, 43 pressures from the interior. This dude's just an absolute dog. And there's no doubt, the Vikings need to add some beef. Over the last couple of seasons under Kevin O'Connell, I think the Vikings, we can all agree, they are a finesse football team. When they won 13 games a couple years ago, it was on the back of Justin Jefferson, on the back of Kirk Cousins. It was an air raid attack, and the Vikings, on both sides of football, they haven't been able to stop the run, and they haven't been able to establish any type of run game. Adding a guy like Jerzon Newton would do so. He is that big fella in the middle. Actually reminds me of former Vikings legends, Kevin and Pat Williams, and guys like Linval Joseph. And I always compare, interior defensive linemen to obviously interior offensive linemen and the relationship that they have with linebackers and running backs. Defensive tackles can open up lanes for linebackers like Blake Cashman, like a guy like Ivan Pace Jr. hitting the seams and just making plays in the backfield. I would be thrilled if this is the draft that the Vikings have. We're taking Kenyon Mitchell at round 1, pick 11, and then you're taking Jerzon Newton at pick 23. If you are staying pat and not moving up in this draft, I would be absolutely thrilled because it's knocking out a position of need here and knocking out another of position need here. But I want you guys to grade this mock draft for me. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. If the Vikings stay put and they don't make any moves, would you be thrilled with this draft? Give me an A, B, C, D, or F down in the comment section. So we got this report that the Vikings may be looking at the 2025 QB draft class. So we're going to talk about some targets just around the corner, but I want to tell you guys about today's sponsor, and that is Game Time. Anytime you guys are planning on going to a concert, a game, Timberwolves, Wild, whatever it may be, that requires purchasing a ticket, Game Time is the best way to do so. So download the Game Time app today, and if you guys use code CHATSPORTS, we'll hook you guys up with $20 off. Cat Williams is coming to Minneapolis in about a week or so. So if you guys want to go see him, definitely do it and download the Game Time app. But if you guys haven't already, and maybe you guys want to go see the Twins, Wild, or maybe go see a Minnesota Timberwolves playoff game, I suggest you download the app, and then it will hit you with this screen right here where it says redeem code. If you guys put in code CHATSPORTS, we'll give you guys $20 off. That could be big. And hey, if you're going to a Twins game, tickets are pretty cheap. They're normally around like $15 to $30. You could get pretty much a free ticket if you do use code CHATSPORTS. So get hooked up today, download the Game Time app, and I promise you, you guys won't regret it. Code CHATSPORTS, CHATSPORTS. Download that app, use that code right there. We'll hook you guys up with $20 off. All right, let's take a look at the top 5 quarterbacks heading into next season. Now, obviously, you got Shedeur Sanders and Quinn Ewers. We'll get into those guys more in a second, but you got Drew Aller, Connor Wegman, Carson Beck at Georgia. And I like those 3 guys you see in the middle, but I don't like them as much as I would prefer the Vikings targeting a guy like Shedeur Sanders or Quinn Ewers. That's why if the Vikings are looking towards next season, these are my top 2 options. We'll dive into both here, and let's start it off with the man who just bought a Tesla truck with his NIL money, Shedeur Sanders, actually from Dallas, Texas. I did not know that. That's where the Chat Sports studios are located. But he really hit the scene hard, man. Last season, even watching him play in the first game against TCU week 1 of the college football season last year, he was absolutely fantastic, and he came on the scene fast. He came on it hard. And I actually do have some pros and cons around Shedeur Sanders and just his overall game, because I wanted to go in there, dive into the tape a little bit, and see what Sanders is good and what he is bad at. And the number 1 pro I had on Shedeur Sanders, his accuracy and ball placement. I would tell you what, this guy, he is incredible at fitting the ball in the tight windows. Whether it's these deep over routes where he had those throws countless times where he's fitting it over a linebacker's shoulder and he's just ear-holing the ball past the guy. He's great at that. Connie has. He does hold on to the football a little too much, which I can kind of chalk up to him just kind of being a playmaker. Russell Wilson, since he's came into the league, he has allowed the most sacks to himself by 100 sack margin, which, obviously is a negative, but I would rather have them go be aggressive and go try to make plays instead of kind of being passive. Also, he's clutching late game situations. We saw that countless times at Colorado last year. The Buffaloes are down in the game. He drives them right down the field, goes get a touchdown or a field goal, whatever it may be. this is a con that is definitely the worst part of his game. He's an okay anticipatory thrower. And what I mean by this is like when a window opens up, he doesn't see a window that could possibly be open until it is right in his face, which, I think in the NFL, I think that could be taught to you, but he doesn't really have that, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, where like it looks like nothing's open and he almost throws the receiver open, which is something he's obviously going to get better at once he hits the league. But he's also got great post-snap recognition. He's great at, kind of picking out coverages and seeing what the best option is. So I love Shedeur Sanders. I think he's going to be great in the NFL. And hey, plus, his dad's freaking Dion, man. He's got that in his blood. I think he would work out, obviously in the league. But let's kick to Quinn Ewers here. And this is a guy who, I think I'm a bigger fan of him than most people are. Coming from Southlake, Texas. I mean, he was one of the best quarterbacks in Texas football or Texas high school history. You said what? Southlake Carroll. He went to high school in Texas. Shout out to Trace for letting me know that. But, hey, this past season, I thought he was great. He shaved off the mullet, ran with the buzz cut following his freshman year, and I love the way he throws the football. And listen, he's got arm talent to make every throw. There's no doubt about that. Like, he skipped out on his senior year of high school to go to Ohio State, transferred into Texas the following year. But, I just think like a lot of people like saw him come back from that injury his freshman year where he did not play good, really struggled against Oklahoma State. And I think people just kind of chalked it up as he's not, that good of a quarterback. Well, I think he can make a case for himself to potentially win the Heisman next season. That Texas offense is really going to be rolling, and he has every kind of throw in the book to execute an offense. The one thing here, he has a sidearm release, and it's not that big of a deal in my opinion, but it does lead to some inconsistencies. But, hey, guys like Mahomes, guys like Josh Allen, Herbert, they all have the sidearm too. You see guys, they either throw a U with the football where you're making a U and it's more of like a sidearm action, or you got the old school where you're making a C right here with the Tom Brady, Peyton Manning type of throw. So he's got a U thrower, but I also love he can mix up the ball speed. He can layer the football really well. He doesn't have the best strength on the ball when he's throwing over the middle field, fitting it in tight windows. He's going to definitely need to add some, strength to that element, but he can also throw on the run, man. He can make dudes miss outside the pocket. Sneaky athlete. So overall, I would love if the Vikings took Quinn Ewers. But will the Vikings draft a quarterback in 2024? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. Y for yes, N for no. I sure as hell hope they do. Even though I like Quinn Ewers and Shedeur Sanders, I just really hope the Vikings go and get their guy this season. But if we get any more updates around this football team making moves in this year's draft or maybe making moves in next year's draft, we'll have a video for you guys ASAP. So hit that sub button if you guys haven't already. Help us reach 25K here on the channel. Absolutely incredible, and just love the support that you guys have shown. So see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.